You're very welcome along to this week's edition of Off the Brawl on Off the Ball. I'm Phil Egan, joined in the studio by Andy Lee, and Ronan Mullen is back. And people might be wondering, Ronan, why I'm sitting in your seat, but let's use a boxing analogy. Yeah. This is a tune-up fight for you. You're not back long. You know, probably a bit of jet lag. You've missed a lot. Yeah. Jason Quigley, you missed that.
Couldn't believe that. I'm delighted to hear it, but I don't know. If you need someone to carry the bucket, Andy, I'm available.
There's plenty offering their services now.
Yeah, or a media manager. I could do that.
Yeah, media manager. Yeah. Any other? I'm not really great with cuts.
Oh, no, we've kind of got everything covered now. Got Rob McKeever, he's helping me out. We had Amy McGee in the corner for Paddy Donovan's debut.
That's a great picture.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was the only reason we did it for the photograph.
It's all
I was stood there like this. I wonder if they're taking the photograph now.
You stood there for like 3 minutes. People don't know that. You were just hoping someone
capture this photo.
So you missed, So you've obviously missed the news.
Seems like you've been gone.
Yeah.
You missed me.
What else did you? So you missed Paddy's debut.
Phil did a good job in your stead.
Yeah.
I always trust Phil.
Yeah.
Pull it out of the bag.
Safe hands.
So, yes.
Well, no, we
steady,
did.
Like, you know,
no. We have to say it was
like
remiss of us. Last week we did miss the Celtic Clash 7 or 8 in Belfast. We forgot to mention that.
We ran out of time.
We apologise to Dennis Morrison and Lenny Gunnan there.
Yeah.
But we were a bit pressed for time.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
And
I can't manage the time as well as you,
There's
Ron.
a lot going on, but big win for Joe Fitzpatrick. An upset as well on the cards, I heard.
That was the same weekend. That was the Saturday night, wasn't it?
Same weekend as Paddy, so we kind of I was kind of blinded by Paddy.
Yeah.
And so Andy, it went from I'm not training anybody to I'll train Paddy, but just Paddy, and now it's Jason Quigley as well. So when Golovkin picks up the phone, it's like, Andy didn't perform too well in my last fight.
I've been wondering why he hasn't called. No, they're working together really well. They had him in the gym this morning. They've been working every day together, and
that's great.
Picking up off each other, and like Paddy will say something, and even Paddy will say something, or Jason will say something that Paddy does, and they're working. They're going to spar tomorrow for the first time. So
you know when you're watching fights now, because you're training, are you watching them in a different perspective? Or
I always paid attention to the corners. Always did, and what were they saying, even in the camps and how they were training. But I do watch a lot more training videos now to see what kind of things people are doing.
Rocky montage is always a good one.
It's a great little video of Andrew Ruiz doing the paddles with Robles. I just see it this morning. It's doing the rounds on WhatsApp. Yeah, he's training. He looks fast hands.
He looks in good shape.
Looks in better shape. Yeah, he's kind of getting. This was his shape before. Now he's going a bit like this, a little bit, just slightly.
You know what's going to happen if he loses? They'll say, you're better off the other way.
Yeah.
Like, give the guy a Snickers and he's a better fighter. That's what they'll say.
Jared McLennan had a Snickers after every weigh-in. The night before a fight, he had a Snickers every night.
They're probably marathon bars back then.
I think Paddy had a Snickers too, because, like I said, now you've made the weight. You know, it was a big thing for him to make it 67 kilos, which he'd been 69 for all these amateurs. And I said, listen, the battle's not. This is not the victory. This is not the fight. This is only the first victory. So don't let off now. Keep focused. And then when I came to his room the next morning, I saw some sweet wrappers. Outside his door in the hotel, there was a vending machine right outside his room. So I just said, look.
I was confident he was going to make weight because the day he was in here, someone made a coffee for him and they asked milk and sugar, and he said just sugar. And I remember Andy was standing close by. I was thinking, is that all right, like, coach? But if he was taking a little bit of sugar in his coffee, I was thinking he's obviously confident.
He's only 69 kilos now. Even after that too, he's only put on 4 pounds. So he's.
What happens in sparring? So you as the coach of both. Is it like an open session, or are you giving them instructions that they're not allowed to do certain things, or are you looking to improve
they're going to have free
elements?
sparring, and I'll correct any mistakes I see. But it'll be a nice little test for the two of them, because the first time sparring, and there's always trying to establish not the dominance, but who's the dog in it. You know, who's the main man in the gym. And so far, there's been like a friendly respect between the two of them, but we'll see how it goes now. It's going to be interesting tomorrow. So, let's see. I'll give you a full report next week. Let's get on to the boxing. Let's talk about that Ritson win.
Yeah.
We talked about Fury a couple of months ago, Andy. Clearly a fan of Off the Brawl because he listened to your tactics. But how long have we been telling those Ritson to vary that jab up a little bit and box a little bit more? And he finally did it. And again, I think he feared the opponent a little bit more. Robbie Davis obviously probably more esteemed than Lewis Ritson in the grand scheme of things, and he knew he had to be tuned in to win this fight, and he wasn't going to just bowl through him. And even though there were like a couple of occasions where he thought he might have just had him on power, he knew he was in there for 36 minutes, and he boxed accordingly. I thought it was really impressive. As good as he was as a lightweight, he's obviously lost those benefits now up the 5 pounds. But
was that career best, do you think?
Yeah, and I think he's tailored his game. You know, he's tailored the way he fights because he can't be that dominant, like physically dominant person because he's up a weight now, probably at his natural weight. Because there wasn't a big, huge difference between the two of them, was there? I thought, not looking at the two of them, you know. And Davis Jr. struggles to make the weight. So they looked equal in size for the most part. So now he can't be walking you down, taking your shot, whatever you have, and giving you, like, knowing that no one can stand up to his power because he's not that big anymore. So he had to actually box a bit. He was very, very one thing about in the fight, he was very sharp. Like, his instincts were so sharp, and that he was kind of throwing punches without thinking about it, and they were landing. You know, like, he would always had the answer to come back. Whatever Davis Jr. did, he countered well, like, in terms of he responded all the time. And yeah, definitely, a great fight by both men. I think Davis Jr. would probably be regretting not moving a bit more and trying. I think he was so determined to come and match Ritson. Yeah. What do you think? Come and match him and stand with him, you know. And
fascinating.
Especially being in Newcastle as well, that he wanted to like get his respect early on. But I think had he taken a bit more of a cuter approach, been a bit more slippier and slick as he has been before, he might have been a more successful. Like, I don't want to go as far as say he might have won the fight, but he might have, you know.
You mentioned Newcastle, and you know there was pressure on Ritson because of what happened against Patera. That, like, the atmosphere is electric, and they're talking St James's Park. Yeah. If he gets a world title shot, now we'll get on to that the unification bout this weekend in a bit, but yeah.
I think the pressure's gone now because I think for that to reach those levels, yeah. But I think the pressure's gone now because he has that loss in that situation. He probably has so much regret, and you know, he probably thought about that night every night since, you know. So he's probably relishing getting back in there in that type of crowd, that type of environment, and now he's done himself justice, you know. So I think he's kind of got over that.
I remember when we talked after that fight and he lost, and he said about the weight, and you know, one thing that can happen sometimes with fighters is they blame it on the weight, but it looks like that could have been an issue, and if it took that loss to get him to change and move up weight, then
some people, I'm not sure this is Ritson, like some people kill themselves to make that weight because they lack confidence in their technique, you know, and that they seek an advantage anywhere they can, and if they can be bigger by killing themselves and sacrificing and some to their detriment that they don't perform well, but like he looks like he's at his natural weight now, you know. I still see a lot of technical flaws there in terms of, you mentioned the jab, how he jabs, in terms of being so heavy and heavy-footed and really exposed. But Davis Jr. couldn't counter him, and when he did counter him, Ritson came back at him, you know. So
like that jab you mentioned, like it was so infuriating in the Patera fight and the fights, even the quote-unquote chin-up fights that came after. He was just loading up on that jab as a power punch. At least he was sort of varying the speed of it a little bit through a couple of double jabs. Like, he was keeping Davis guessing to some extent. And no, it's a good point. Like, against Patera, he was this irrepressible force at lightweight, and the fact that the Newcastle arena wasn't even sold out for that fight, they just thought it was taken as read that he was going to win. And in this fight he knew it wasn't the case. Like, this was a 50-50. A lot of people, you're always going to pick the boxer over the puncher. A lot of people picked Davis Jr. to win this fight. And Eddie Hearn actually made a good point, like promoters speak, but I thought it was a good point that to win the fight, Ritson was going to have to box a bit and Davis is going to have to punch a bit. To, like, you're going to have to do what the other does as well. You're going to have to fight the other person's fight at some stage, and Ritson was just better equipped to do it. I thought Davis Jr., as good as it was for the fans to see him get into the pocket and stay there, it was to his own detriment, really. He should have been on his toes, and he could have he could have nicked it in the end.
So it goes to the judges' scorecards, and they're reading out the scores. And then Ritson has this weird reaction where he almost thinks he's lost.
That was really strange, isn't it?
Yeah, it was like
didn't hear an explanation for that.
Yeah, it was almost as if somebody said to him, "I think you've lost," and the reaction kicked in. But he won by 4, 4, and 5. Was that too wide, do you think? I mean, a win is a win.
No, I don't think it was.
Oh, yeah, I'm not sure if it's too... Like, with those rounds, he might have had 4 rounds, but he might have just scraped those 4 rounds. We've seen it recently a lot with close fights. We've seen it a lot recently with close fights where they might have a wide scorecards, but in reality, those each round was contested very...
That's it. I think people, when they look at these judges' scorecards, they see the wide gap and they think, it represents a comfortable win, but it certainly wasn't. The fight beforehand, do you want anything else to say on Lewis Ritson, Ronan?
No, just I totally agree.
All hail the King's back.
What both of you said about actually, it's so annoying when you see people on Twitter who've been watching boxing for 40 years saying the scorecards are a bit iffy. It's like, you have to give the round to somebody. I hate drawing rounds. You're getting paid to do a job and judge who won the round. Yeah. Pick who won the round.
Round by round.
So if it's 51% for one guy, 49% for the other guy, he's getting a point for that round, and those add up. Like, I don't get it. Like,
I think some people just look at it and they think it's almost like you get to the end of the fight and then you decide, right, now I'll do my scoring. But that's not how it works.
Exactly, that's it. And you mentioned, and we'll get on to the fight this weekend, but he's not ready for a world title challenge whatsoever. Like, that talk of that for St James's Park next summer, that's so premature. He needs 2 or 3 more fights at least. He needs to build on this.
Yeah.
Like, go to America, fight someone over there, get some more experience, and then come back the summer after.
Yeah, you'd definitely go, wouldn't you?
I'll be there. Don't get me wrong.
Go to America. Where's the next on your bucket list? Like, and we'll send Ritson over there.
I don't know. Go to California. He can fight on one of Jason Quigley's cards. So.
Yeah, big time. Yeah. So the fight beforehand, Scott Fitzgerald, Ted Cheeseman. Now I found this.
Another one of my favourite fighters, by the way, Scott Fitzgerald.
Yeah, and what a year he's had. He's just taken out Ted Cheeseman. He obviously beat Fowler, but it's bizarre where, okay, we've a fair idea of the way Cheeseman fights, so he didn't fight that way on Saturday, and it seemed to throw a lot of people off. And I found watching it, now, I think since we started doing the podcast, Andy, you've been like kind of suggesting if you really want to get a good representation of a fight, turn the sound off. Just watch it with your eyes, and you don't need your ears for it. But Sky commentary seemed to be giving rounds to Cheeseman early doors, and the narrative then for the whole fight was, this is a brilliant boxing performance from Cheeseman. Now, he changed his tactics, fair play to him. But when you see what Cheeseman said after, right? So he put up a message on Twitter. So he said, train like a lunatic, dedicate your life, make loads of sacrifices of politics, of business, take away from me what I deserve. Everyone knows who the real winner of the fight was tonight. Box class. Everyone doubted me before, proved you all wrong, and then gets scammed. He wasn't scammed at all. But even Eddie Hearn said Ted put on a clinic for 9 rounds.
I don't know, yeah. Again, this was an even fight. It was an even fight. Some of those early rounds could swing either way.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I know everybody involved in this thing in terms of the commentary. You got to choose your words. No, you can't. It's dangerous when you go down a certain path in the commentary that you can become invested in that. And it's very hard to change tack when you get into that kind of mode of looking at it from one side or one angle, one side of the fight. But even at that, I thought those early rounds, I didn't see it being so wide for Cheeseman. I thought like there were I don't like it. It's easy to be critical of commentators. They're here, the fight's there, up above them. They're seeing a different thing than you that what's on TV. But it's not the one. There's not the angle from the TV that actually matters. It's the one that's being seen from down here. That's looking up, because they're the ones who are scoring it, the officials. But there's also another issue where it's like a fight like that, which was pretty quiet because neither of them were hometown fighters. Yeah, it was a tactical fight. It wasn't like a barnstorm, so the crowd couldn't invest. They can hear the voices ringside, and if they're hearing Macklin, Adam Smith and Andy Clark because at one stage they go to the scorecards and Andy Clark's got Cheeseman up three rounds, you know. And this was quite early in the fight. That's registering, you know, and I thought it was a good fight, though. It was still a good fight. Don't let it take away.
Was it just in case Cheeseman's tactics were to move and just seemed like he ran out of steam at the end, because as well as he did to adjust his tactics, it was something that just caught up with him. I just felt watching it that Fitzgerald finished the stronger. And
Fitzgerald's good little fighter. Like he's obviously he's not. I'm not sure how far he can go, but in terms of Britain, he's definitely the best at the weight, probably.
Yeah, but like Ted Cheeseman, just back to the point we were saying about the judges getting paid to do a job, like they can't take reputation into consideration at all. Just because Ted's fighting a different way than he normally fights, you can't just give him bonus points for that. Like it's you have to call the round as you see it, and it was very close. If Cheeseman had got it, I wouldn't have complained. I thought Fitzgerald might have nicked it. So it was. You can't call a fight a robbery when it's that close, you know. Either way, but it does bode well for Cheeseman, I think, because we might get on to Patrick Day at some point, but I remember the Sergio Garcia fight against Ted Cheeseman. It's one of the most worrying fights I've seen in the last couple of years, where he's just getting clean shots constantly to the head and his head's just flying back at European level. And I thought, this guy, if he's going to fight like this for the rest of his career, he's got no chance. He's not going to make it. But like, it just showed that he can change his tactics, and if he can blend what got him to this point with what he did last weekend, you know, it bodes well for him. And it's a stacked division domestically.
Yeah,
and
Fowler was there obviously watching, and it just seems like, you know, even listening to Eddie Hearn, I know a few people have said, like, Scott Fitzgerald's Preston lad could put on, like, they reckon he could do a football ground in Preston, Deepdale. I don't know how true that is, but it just seemed like it was the story around it was they wanted Cheeseman to win. Cheeseman then fights Fowler. They'd probably fancy Fowler to beat Cheeseman, and then you get your Fowler and Fitzgerald part 2, but Fowler goes in as the champion.
Yeah, if I was Fitzgerald, just from his point of view, I'd go full George Groves here and just not give Fowler the rematch. He hasn't earned it yet, and it doesn't benefit Fitzgerald in any way really, apart from financially. And having won the British title, he should be looking at a European title. Yeah. And if he wins that, you know, the natural progression. Why go back? Like, he beat Fowler conclusively. This wasn't like a lucky punch, or he caught Fowler on the hop. He outboxed him, knocked him down, clear winner. So until Fowler gets himself back into that position, I don't think he should just be giving him because he's the Sky golden boy, you know. I think he has to go out there and beat someone. Like, he beat Brian Rose in very unconvincing fashion. Brian Rose, who retired 3 years ago. So I don't know. I think Anthony Fowler needs to like do something before he starts getting these big paydays again. So
that was Saturday night. Friday night or early Saturday morning, you had the light heavyweight unification bout, Beterbiev and Voschik. What you make of it? Just obviously stopped in the 10th round.
Yeah, Andrew Ward at the best line. I thought it was like Beterbiev looked like the bigger brother, like the older brother. So like they're very similar. Voschik probably more of a technician, but Voschik was actually up on the cards at the time of the stoppage. But you know, you get this feeling in the odd fight where someone's winning the rounds but they're not winning the fight. So like, you remember Kovalev against Andre Ward, where Kovalev was winning the early rounds but Ward was hurting him to the body. You could see it, you could see him wilting, and the narrative of the fight was just turning, and then at the back end of the fight, like, that was clearly the tactics from Beterbiev. And like, what an impressive fighter. He's vaulted right into like pound for pound conversation. Like, what a win. And you mentioned corner work and Teddy Atlas, who I love as a broadcaster, but the round before Voschik got stopped, he's basically saying, come on, be a man, or, you know, it'll come back to you, your body's going to come back to you. Is that what you want in the corner when the world title's on the line and you need specific instructions of how I'm ahead on the cards, how do I navigate my way to the final bell here, and I'm going to nick it on the cards, not be a man or we're firefighters or whatever the nonsense he comes out with. I don't know, from your perspective, is that of any use to you in that situation?
No, like, you don't want your masculinity being questioned when you're in the ring. I don't know, you know. Sometimes they know the camera, like some people, they know the camera's on them. They want to make it about them, don't they?
Almost, yeah, you're kind of thinking it's going down the Hollywood route, like, you know.
Some people will respond to that, you know. I think
speaking their third or fourth language.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. Tim Bradley, he can get the fighter analogy, but somebody like Graschek from, you know, again,
yeah,
it's probably going through an interpreter, like.
I don't know. Well, it did feel like it was going one way at that point anyway. Like it was kind of unassailable, Beterbiev's. But I remember when he first came onto the scene and there was talk of him against Kovalev, and they just kind of passed like ships in the night in the end. But like Canelo's obviously fighting Kovalev in a couple of weeks, and that's going to be a one and done. In like if he stays around that division, he hasn't got much chance because these guys are on another level physically. And
Canelo, you're talking about
Canelo,
but
and Kovalev.
But we kind of feel that Canelo is going to beat Kovalev. So the two lads fighting last Friday, Beterbiev, Vostic will get another world title shot. Does he maybe get Kovalev if he comes back after?
Bivol.
Yeah,
he's the man. That's the fight.
But is that not for Beterbiev?
Yeah.
I'm talking about Vostic. What does he do?
He's get Kovalev. 1.5 million goes back to Ukraine.
It's tough. Like,
you know,
those fights are gonna fight each other for years to come. I think they're both in that age profile, and Bivol sort of. He's flattered to deceive a little bit. Like he was on the cusp of great things a few years ago now, and he hasn't really kicked on. Granted, he has the titles to back it up, but I don't know. I think he needs a statement win like that. If he fought Beterbiev and did a job on him, that'd be a huge statement.
Yeah, and anyone else that can challenge. Like we've talked about some of the British fighters that want to make their mark in that light heavyweight division, but
it just shows how far that fight shows how far off the mark those guys are, and that's not a criticism.
Yeah,
it's just they're not ready. Like they haven't fought that caliber of opposition.
When you see these guys like Beterbiev, Bivol, it's hard to get interested in them. You know, if they're going to fight each other, they need somebody on the other side. If they're the A side or the B side, they need some like Canelo Kovalev. Kovalev is different because he was the first. There's a different kind of. He beat cleverly. He's been around, fought wars. So there is a different. People know him. He's a household name in terms of boxing. But these other guys, they need to do a bit more in terms of their profile. I think. You know. Do you? I don't know.
Yeah, it wasn't.
Like you have Lomachenko, Usyk, and Golovkin.
Yeah.
And for the rest of the Eastern European guys coming over, they need to do something else. I think to get they need to be devastating in the ring, very exciting in the ring, or they need to be, you know, dominating or have some sort of personality or something. You know.
Yeah. Well,
none of those guys seem to have that.
Look, we talked about it. You were obviously at the Lomachenko and Campbell fight. That if it wasn't Campbell that Lomachenko was fighting, he'd still sell that arena out. Usyk obviously has people know about him because of the Bellew fight. Plus, they would have known about him anyway from winning all the cruiserweight belts. But yeah, apart from those two, like it seems especially the way British boxing is at the moment, and some of the cards that they're getting, that if you're an Eastern European fighter, maybe go to fight one of the British lads, and
they all want to get in on the British market. They all want the big payday, and they all think it's easy pickings over there. You know, it's like
because this fight obviously was on in Philadelphia, but we didn't hear that much about it.
No, it didn't get picked up by a UK broadcaster. Yeah. So,
like it was a Friday night as well, which is strange. We're not used to that. So, what about this weekend then?
Like off the back of last weekend, another unification, 2 undefeated fighters. Like we're being spoiled at the moment, and this is a legitimate 50-50. I'm really not sure. Like we've seen a lot more Josh Taylor over the years, just being this side of the water, and he's got that special stuff. You can see it in him, and he's been destined for great things from the get-go. But Prograis similarly, like you just look back to his record, his past, on a personal level, like a remarkable story. Yeah. And it's just all the makings of an unbelievable fight. And I just don't know. I can't really call it. I think it's a pure 50-50. I think Prograis probably a little bit more to his game.
We have a tendency to lean towards Taylor because we're used to seeing it.
Exactly.
You know, but there's certainly a slickness to Prograis' fighting style. He probably will be the smaller man in there, and Josh Taylor will walk you down, and box book can walk you down too. But again, it could be like every week we're looking at, is this fight of the year, but in terms, like even with a shout, it could be because of the two champions.
Yeah.
They're both champions in their own right, like fighting each other, and that's rare. It might be title holders, but these guys are champions.
I think it's going to be a high level boxing match.
Yeah.
Like it's sorry, excuse me. It's going to be a difficult sell for Sky Sports box office. Like people aren't that familiar with Josh Taylor yet. People aren't familiar at all with Regis Prograis. It's probably actually going to be the Chisora Price fight that's going to sell that to the.
Was that put on box office before Parker?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was.
Like it is a very strong card, but it's a trade card, you know.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think Taylor showed something to me in the last fight where against a very physical guy in Branchik, he stood in there and almost broke his will by. Branchik came over thinking, I'm going to dominate this guy physically, and Taylor stood in there for the first 6 rounds and outmanned him almost, and then boxed him and got the win. So I think he showed something to Prograis, who was ringside for that fight. You might remember Prograis likes it in the inside and likes to impose his will as well, and Taylor was basically saying to him, you know, I can mix it like that as well. And there is a little bit of spite in this, which I like a lot. It's like they respect each other an awful lot, which sort of they kind of accentuates it a little bit, where they both think they're just as a level above the other. So it's this friendly rivalry which has grown into actually a proper rivalry. So it bodes well. It's going to be a cracker.
Yeah, you mentioned Chisora, obviously. Chisora and Price. We know with David Price, if he hits you, like he can cause you trouble.
This is one we can do predictions for.
Yeah.
We'll get the prediction chart up. Chisora Price. On the
Chisora
spot.
Price. Chisora wins after 7 rounds.
I think Price. I decided Price.
You just go with it.
No, I think Price this morning.
Oh yeah, I don't know.
This morning I
actually
decided
have
Price.
fencing. I think Price could do it. I think Price could actually do it. But Dave Allen and Chisora are different animals.
Yeah.
You know, Chisora's looked rejuvenated, hasn't he?
Yeah, I saw him on his farm.
Yeah.
He's bitter as well.
I think
do you know what?
Price is alive. If Price is anything like 5 to 1 underdog, he's worth a bit.
It always gets thrown out that he can knock out anyone in the division,
Yeah,
and that once upon a time was a fact. But has he still got that big power?
He can hurt you, but he hurt Povetkin, but he didn't put him away.
Yeah.
Like
Chisora's going to be really.
Chisora is old though. He's getting older.
Yeah, but I think he still thinks that. Okay, apart from the fact that the Parker fight was.
I don't know. I love
called off.
Chisora.
He thought like I should be on the main act here. Now I don't think he can really say that now that he's fighting David Price, but he'd still like to go in, put on a performance, and basically say like.
What does it mean if David Price wins? It's really like, I don't know.
See, we
Plus the
keep
cat
saying
amongst the
this
pigeons, doesn't it? Like, what does it mean if he wins? He's beaten David Allen. Okay,
Yeah.
take that. Yeah.
It's not quite going to be.
It's confidence builder, but if he beats Chisora, then
What was Mike Costello's line when Ruiz beat Anthony
throwing a
Joshua?
hand grenade into the landscape.
It's not quite that.
Division.
It's like a fun snap, maybe.
Yeah.
But it's.
No, I don't know. The landscape's so weird at the moment because it seems every fight has like Tyson Fury went to the WWE since I was away, but by all accounts he
was there on Friday in Philadelphia watching the light heavyweights as well.
So Wilder Ortiz is happening, and you know whatever happens there, it's probably a bit more cut and dry than when they first fought. I think Ortiz has actually gone over the hill at this point. I think Wilder should take care of him. So is it February they're talking about for?
Talking February 22nd, but a lot of
Is
ifs
that
and
around?
buts.
Like when's the Royal Rumble on? Will he be in for that? Or?
I don't know. He might get a call back. Yeah. Well, first he's got to win. Yeah.
He's got a big fight in Saudi.
Win the Royal Rumble, get the main event at WrestleMania, then come back on SummerSlam.
I wonder does Fury think like
Survivor
he's
Series.
a fighting man, but like this is easy money for me.
Yeah.
I'm a professional talker now at the moment.
Yeah.
I'm getting paid loads of money, and then acting roles will come off the back of this. It's like, do I need to get punched in the face of Otto Wallin?
He said a few things like how tough it is actually, how hard the surface is, and how like strong they are and athletic they are.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure it is. He said like when I was bounded into the ropes, into the
The Irish whip, they call it.
yeah, I should forget all the
We've turned
terms.
ourselves
I
into
forget-
a
I
wrestling
forget all the
podcast
terms.
here.
You're saying like I was bouncing off the ropes, like I had the cuts on my back and things. So it's not all easy for Tyson.
No, but I mean, from his point of view, like, is he going to be asked to do any of that stuff? Really, he's probably
What's
just
he
going to
gonna
go
do?
talk a little bit, throw a few
I
punches.
think he'd be surprised. One thing he does a lot is wrestle.
Oh yeah.
Him and his brother. Have you seen his brother Shane?
for
absolute beast.
Like for the
they
crack?
wrestle a lot.
For the
Yeah, they have a
crack?
big, like they have a huge
Remember,
trampoline. They wrestle a lot.
With Wilder, he said, "Come on, let's have a body spar and a bit of a wrestle."
He wrestles a lot.
I
that
remember
guy.
him wrestling, what's his name, Huey at the Klitschko press conference, remember that?
Yeah.
So Fury came in dressed as Batman, and then Huey ran in dressed as the Joker. They had a wrestle in front of the table, and Klitschko was just staring at them like, oh.
How did we get onto that, by the way?
Oh, listen, Tyson Fury, heavyweight
We have to
division.
talk about it.
What does a win on Saturday do for David
David
Price?
Price, that's the one, yeah.
He
Well,
probably
it just makes me look stupid. And you,
No, I
two
don't
you
know.
lads are going for Price, yeah?
I don't, when it was made,
Everyone
I
expects Chisora, but I think Price is a dog, isn't he? Like you said.
just think he's going to walk him onto something. My question was, does he have the power to hurt him?
Interesting side
Could put him
note is
down.
that
Could put him down, yeah?
yeah, an interesting note is that Chisora has no trainer for the fight. That he's apparently going to corner himself. So that'll be fun.
That's classic,
Yeah.
David Chisora.
That could probably be the first time it's ever been done.
He's got somebody to take his stool out, though, yeah?
I don't know. Stand in the corner.
David Hale will be there with his long coat on. He should just step up and do the corner,
Yeah.
see how he gets on.
Yeah, so that's one of the other fights. And Ricky Burns, Selby's on that as well. That's 12 rounder. That's
Crossroads.
yeah. You're kind of looking at that fight, and it's one if you win, kind of reminds people. But if you lose, it's not really-
Is that a lightweight?
yeah.
Because like Lee Selby probably has a little bit more left in the tank, but he's just a significantly smaller guy. So I don't know. It's an interesting fight.
Selby needs to rejuvenate and get things going again. You know, he had the
He missed the
win,
boat big time.
Probably made plenty of money. Probably quite comfortable.
Yeah.
He needs to show that he's hungry now.
He had a great win on I think it was Kelbrick against Frankie Gavin. He fought on that card, won his world title, and after that he signed with Al Heyman, which it's great. Like, you get paid loads of money up front. James DeGate actually did the same thing. But you kind of lose relevance in the British market, and in the long term that's probably where the money is. So I wonder if he had his time back over. Lee Selby, like, irrepressible talent, and his brother similarly very, very talented lad, but they've kind of been out of sight and out of mind a little bit.
Another one, I know we touched on it when Jason Quigley was in. Gabu and Lawrence Okolie, that's on as well. That's for the European Cruiserweight title.
Yeah, I don't know much about the guy, but Jason gives him a good chance.
Yeah.
They train together, so he's quick and strong. Coley's not been... It's kind of not been...
I think he's been making...
Still a work in progress.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
yeah.
still a work in
And
progress.
he's been making big improvements under McGuigan. You saw it in between the two fights, like, just huge improvements compared to the guy he had previously. I think this is a good time. If he's going to be upset, now's the time, because he's such an awkward style to fight. When he starts putting some technique behind that, he's going to be a very tough out for anybody. So this is a good chance for Ngabu to... The odds suggested as well, the odds, you normally look at Okolie's odds and he's like 25 to 1 on.
Yeah.
The bookies have it quite close, relative to that at least. So should be a good fight. It's a very good card.
Yeah, also fighting at the weekend, Shakur Stevenson for a world title. Kind of touched on this last week when we were talking about Michael Conlon and Carl Frampton and Shakur Stevenson. So
it's early, but
It's one we'll watch with interest, isn't it? Just because to see how he fights, and also who he might match up against with in the future.
It's a 13th fight, I think.
yeah,
And it's obviously very early, but when you're that kind of talent, like Gervonta Davis against Pedraza, everyone's like, that's very early, but he conclusively won. And then going back to Mayweather, even like against Hernandez, again, it was so early. But when you're that talented, there's no point holding them back. It's actually to their detriment if you hold them back, and if they spin their wheels a bit. Like, let them progress, see where they're at. And like, in this day and age of boxing, a loss isn't the end of the world. We know how good Stevenson is. He's going to be a serial world champion, win or lose this weekend. So throw him in and see if he's ready. Top rank, they really test their guys hard. They match them hard, and you're going to know all about it, Andy, when Paddy's going to be fighting for a world title.
I knew about it myself in my first fight. First, they put me in a guy called Carl Cockerham. Gave me life and death for 6 rounds. But, well, Paddy, as again, like you said, talent. And with Paddy, if he's good enough, he'll be ready.
It's exciting times in the Andy Lee stable.
absolutely. Another thing you said when you came back into the office, you said the Conlon the Keaton thing caught you off. You didn't really see that coming.
Because just speaking to Michael before the last fight, I asked him a couple of times, is this the end of the Keaton thing? And he was very matter of fact that, like, that's I'm over it. You know, it's a narrative thing. I'm a career fighter. I know I want to progress, and this is a step back, and it is a step back. Even as compared to his last opponent, who was, in my opinion, a better fighter than Nikitin, and that wasn't a competitive fight at all, really. So I don't know what. It's obviously a marketing thing from Top Rank's perspective, and they need to get some use out of Nikitin. They only signed him for this reason, so let's just throw him to the wolves now, and that'll be the end of it.
Obviously, since we did the last podcast, we had the horrible news: Patrick Day, another boxer losing their life in the ring, and I always find, Andy, when a boxer dies, like, it seems to be a time to kind of press the reset button. People want to say, you know, what can we do to make the sport safer? Like, at the very top level, I'm sure there's enough practices in place to try and make it as safe as possible. Like, this fight was at a decent level where all the right checks were in place.
Yeah, like, if people are going to, like, we all agree to this, you know what I mean? It's not, like, sometimes you just can't avoid it, you know. It's Formula 1 racing or whatever it may be. You're driving a fast car, you're going to go into a ring or take punches and give punches in the head. There's going to be consequences. And, like, you may find ways of changing the sport to make it safer.
Like, are we talking like things like gloves? Yeah,
making bigger gloves, making it a one knockdown, making a longer rest in 10 seconds after a knockdown to truly evaluate a fighter. Maybe a 2 knockdown rule, where some places have a 3 knockdown. But if you do all these things, you probably will kill the sport. You know, I don't know. I'm not saying yes or no to either way. There definitely can be ways to improve the sport in terms of safety. But the human brain hasn't changed, you know, but people are getting stronger and faster, and I think hopefully this, like, it seems to be occurring a lot, doesn't it? This year I think it's 4 since July.
Yeah.
This is the first American since 2006, so because of that, it's taken a lot of more mainstream pages than it did with.
I haven't watched, like, out of principle, I haven't watched the fight, and I've stayed away from some of the interviews he did before the fight, Patrick Day. But what can you say? You know, just there's nothing you can say. It's just tragic, but he, and I'm sure he would have, and every other fight that we go in knowing the risk, and you accept it, and you take it anyway. Yeah,
it's just like, you know, people will talk about, like you mentioned, brain, and you can go for scans and all that. And as I said, that's all well and good at the very top level where fighters have money behind them, where this is all part and parcel of it. But, you know, if you've got lads fighting in small halls, like a 4-rounder, you're effectively putting it on, the onus is on them to, if they don't feel right, like, to do something about it. But some people are fighting to change their life. They're thinking, I'm going to do whatever it takes. And we've heard people say, you know, you'd have to carry me out of the ring, like, because nobody's going to stop me from getting to where I want to get to. Like, boxing it's a brutal sport, you know. But we see so many good things from it, like people that have very little hope in life, they turn to boxing, changes their life. And I mean, we've talked about Prograis and Taylor. There's a prime example. He's coming over. I've heard some of his interviews. Like, if I wasn't a boxer, like, I wouldn't be in London fighting for a world title. Like, you know, he had the tragedy of Hurricane Katrina, and he's turned his life around. So, you know, as you said, boxers they know what they're getting themselves into. It doesn't make it any easier when you see what happens.
Yeah, I don't know. There's not much you can say. There's no full stop at any point of it. It's tragic, but that's the sport we're in. You know, that's the sport and thing we accept.
Patrick Day, like, came from a blue collar family. I think his dad was a doctor, so, like, didn't necessarily need to box.
Yeah,
and
but he wanted to box.
He wanted to box, and he was a prolific sparrer as well. And I think that kind of plays into it a bit more. It's probably something that needs to be monitored. Like, when people get stopped, they get these 90-day suspensions from the commission. But, like, what does that really mean? Like, how enforceable are those? Most commissions only have a couple of people working for them. So, do you know if you get stopped on Saturday, you're just back in the gym the next week, and you probably book your fight for, like, the 93rd day? Like in theory, the 90-day ban is from all contact, and it's just not enforced, and it's probably not enforceable.
It's very hard to police, yeah.
Exactly. And then at the top level, like it's only going to change when it starts hurting people's pockets, and that's the sad reality of it. Yeah. So this happened on DAZN, and DAZN talk about their $1 billion and how much money they have to throw at this. Like, it's going to hurt their image if people are literally losing their lives on their broadcasts. You know, people aren't going to tune in. People aren't going to pay their subscriptions to watch that. So it's up to them, I think, to actually say, we want clean, we want better drug testing, you know, for a start. That's a separate issue. And we want, you know, all our fighters to leave the ring in the same way relative to how they got into it. So they need to take the lead on this. The promoters aren't going to do it. We've seen it in the past. In Britain, in the mid-90s, there was a slate of tragedies and nothing changed really. Like, there was a change in brain scans, but that was it. It was marginal. They're going to have to throw money at it, and whether there's money to be thrown at it, you know, that's
so if there is going to be money thrown at it, it's only going to be at the very high level of boxing. I know we're going to be back next week because we'll obviously be building up to the Katie Taylor fight, and Crawler's fighting on that card as well. You're going to head over to it, aren't you?
Well, I hope so. I'm just trying to plug back in. I've
how many emails did you have when you got back?
Oh my god, I haven't even got.
Put on your out of work.
I did. I've only gotten through about 1/10 of my emails, so hopefully there's something back there about Katie Taylor. But no, it should be a great occasion, and they've signed Cecilia Brycehouse as well, Matchroom. So that's a natural fight, and it's one we've been sort of talking about as a dream, like a fantasy matchup. But it's very much like they're obviously looking at it now. So that'd be unbelievable.
And Andy, Paddy Donovan, have we got a
November 16th?
November 16th. Glasgow.
And then Jason,
TDC for opponent?
No, yeah, he was supposed to fight Danny Mendoza, who was for Gary Cully on the card, but he's since this morning pulled out.
Okay.
Doesn't want none of that smoke. Is that what they say? Is that how they say it?
I don't know. I like it.
Sounds right to me.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thanks very much for tuning into Off the Brawl. Back next week. Enjoy the fights, and we'll chat to you then.